Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about scalability. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, do I need to care about the scalability for the resume projects? Is it okay if I build a complex backend REST API and leave the frontend part and push the backend code to GitHub? Will it suffice to mention it on my resume? And I'm really bad at writing tests for backend code. How should I learn it? So this sort of touches on what I've said in the past, guys, where this idea that a lot of you have, where you're only creating these projects for the sake of like the resume, that that is a bad idea. It's a really bad idea, because the reality is that most of these resume products that you are making, they are just a way for you. It's like window dressing. It's something that you do in a shop where you put things in the store window to make people take notice, but no one in the right like like you can check it yourself. Like go and talk to other developers and see, and like managers and so forth, if you know anyone, of course, and see how often do they look at these sorts of personal projects. And I can tell you, because at this point I've done so much of this work, that the average time that you spend on someone's personal project like that is almost nothing. In many cases, most of those resume products that you're making, they don't really matter to whoever's reviewing you. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the times that it matters has more to do with that you have a pet project or something that you care about personally. And I've told this to others as well. Do you have any idea, guys, how many times I've asked people a very simple question in the interview. I asked them, like, what do you do in your spare time? Do you have any type of passion projects, or do you do any type of learning, etc., etc.? And guys, I can hear that you don't care about your resume project. I'm not. I mean, and I can, and all the other interviewers can hear it. I hear it as well, because it's not a passion project for you guys, for anyone. Guys, there's no passion project that is a quote unquote simple back, like a, or in this case, a complex back and REST API no, that you're not even most likely running in production, or like you're not hosting it, you're not doing anything with it. It's just code that you wrote to experiment. And that is a very good thing. As I've said before as well, I'm a big fan and a big advocate of personal projects, the learning projects, things that you're using in order to learn. And you can put those things, guys, you can put them on the resume, you can put them as like as a GitHub repository sort of thing, but you don't try to present them as something that, like, you know, you do that thing. Like, you don't talk so much, perhaps, like, think of so much about the product itself, but talk about what you learned from doing that thing. And sometimes you might have a really cool idea, something that is extra shiny, something that you really cared about, and maybe you put that on your resume, but don't make that like the focus. So you don't have to think about scalability for your resume projects, because unless your resume project is a serious application, because scalability, like, I hope that makes sense to you. If your focus is to impress someone else, then you're already dead in the water, because you're like, do you have any idea how unlikely it is that you're going to make a REST API or something similar, like a to-do app or something like that, that's going to make someone like me or someone who has like more years of experience, or like a manager or so forth, go, wow, this was really cool. The novelty projects might give you that sort of like sensation as an interviewer, but the thing that you care about is the knowledge and skill of the person who's working or who's applying for the job. Yeah, the resume projects, like the fact that you have them, like that you're just producing repositories and you're actually doing all this extra work, that's the thing that is going to get you attention when you're a junior software developer. Unless, as I said, like you have some specific really cool thing that really stands out, and that's the thing that should matter to you, not whether or not your system is scalable or not. Because, like, I mean, nobody's, unless you're going to start a startup, going to scale like a resume project. It's by definition something you're probably just doing for the resume, right? So that's what I would say to you. And if it's okay to leave, I guess I was saying, like, you don't have to, like, any project is a can be a resume project, guys. Anything, literally anything. It's more a question of, as I said, how, what does that communicate about you? If you only do code katas or things like that, like, that's going to be noteworthy. Like, mention these things, guys. It's not that nobody's asking you to, like, build Facebook or something like that. We're talking about you producing and sort of showing that you have a genuine interest in the thing, and then it's down to the person who's doing the interview to determine if they're impressed or not. And as I've said, guys, I have had some people that I've interviewed who I can see the fire in their eyes. When they talk about their products, they're really excited about it. So like an example would be code cutters or something like that. That might sound like this, something that isn't all that great to put on a resume. But then you have to consider as well, who are you talking to? Are you talking to some dude who's like, yeah, sometimes I do a lead code exercise, so, and like I might put it, like, there's no fire, there's no excitement, and then you have people who can nerd out about their code coders and go, what I really find interesting is to see if I can optimize the O notation of my algorithm and see if there's a solution that I can come up with first, and then I might check the answer later. Like, you're showing fire, hunger, passion. These are the things that the people are care about when it comes to like these sorts of projects, because there's no chance in hell, my friend, that you are going to create like, unless you are like a very experienced software developer, that you're going to create some type of hobby project that, unless it's a novelty thing, as I said, because you can do that as well. Yeah, I've seen some very impressive products that were really, really quote-unquote cool, but you're not gonna like create some type of super system and then put that on a resume, and then that's just going to get you continuous work over and over, unless you're amazing at sales. I've seen some like people make like there, you can go and check that there are some people who are really, really gifted when it comes to design and front end and things like that. They create really impressive stuff. But you can build anything. You can build literally anything, and if you want to build a backend REST API, then go for it. Just go for it. There's nothing wrong with it, and you don't have to, but I just don't want you to think that building any arbitrary little thing and then just like, you go for quality, you don't go for quantity, because the quantity in of itself has almost no meaning. Because when I ask, or like when anybody asks you in the interview is like about this thing, what matters is how you respond. The thing that you made can be really, really cool, but what matters is what you know. The product is just a way for you to show that, hey, look at me, I can do things, etc., etc. And as for creating tests for backend code and being good or bad with it, it's hard for me to give you like to give you tips on this, because it really comes down to understanding what testing is about. Because like being bad at writing tests, I mean, I'm assuming that you don't write tests for front end. So if you're like anybody who's writing tests, guys, there's tons and tons and tons of literature on this topic. Everything from test-driven development with Kent Beck, which is a pretty good one to just get you sort of to understand these sorts of things. But if you, it's really down to practice here. It's down to understanding why you're writing tests, to test logic and that it works, etc., etc., and then practice, practice, practice. You're always going to suck at it at first, and I can't give you like, I have, if you want to check that there, I have tons of videos of like test-related things and tips and tricks and methods that you can use and so forth for doing testing. But it's sad to say that it's the only thing you can do. You can practice. That's what you can do. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, you don't have to care about scalability for your resume projects, and yes, it's okay for you to just write a backend API or something like that without any front end, etc., etc., because you're not trying to impress me, my friend. You're trying to prove on your CV or your resume that you have some type of skills, and you're probably one of hundreds, if not thousands, of people who get the same bullshit advice that everybody gets, which is put like portfolio projects on your resume. And I sit here as someone who has been working for many years now. I have my own projects. I have even small open source things that I haven't touched those things in years. And I can tell you the times that has mattered whatsoever is less than a handful of occasions throughout my career. in many cases it doesn't even come up in like a discussion. This thing that I'm doing, like this YouTube thing, is potentially a bigger deal than any of my own projects. And you know how many times that has come up? Zero times. I've never talked about it in any interview. It's never made like an appearance or like become a relevant thing whatsoever. It's a novelty. Some of my coworkers once in a while would have met, like every so often someone figures out that I have this little channel, and that's it. That's all. That's the only. No, I'll correct you. It's been relevant at one point exactly, and that is because I have a friend who used to be who was my manager, and he basically suggested that I can do this thing here, but within the company as well. He thought I had a knack for teaching and so forth, but never in an interview or anything like that. I don't. It really comes down to, as I've said 100 times before, guys. Resume, portfolio projects, all these tips that you are getting, these are just tips and tricks for how you can communicate to an employer that you are worth a worthwhile investment. But these sorts of projects, they have more impact if they're not just something you're checking off your list. Make something meaningful, because when you get the skills to be a software developer, when you know how to program, that's just the first step. The second step is to make things. And so spend your time making things that seem interesting and learn from them. You can put, if you look at my GitHub repository, there's like 100 repositories. I have 100 repos, which most of it is like nothing nonsense stuff that I have made. Everything from like when I was in school all the way up to now. And it's the knowledge that you get from making these projects that matter to the employers. The cool things that you're putting in your CV. That's just something, as I said, I argue, go about it this way. Make a lot of shit. Learn from all the projects that you're building, and if you have one or two nuggets of gold that you figure, yeah, that was actually a little bit extra cool, I could talk a little bit about that, put it on your resume. And just do that, because I promise you that's going to serve you more than just building yet another to-do app or something like a REST API that does absolutely nothing. It doesn't impress anybody on average, unfortunately. Have a great day.